Every second, a small metal dial spins beneath your property, measuring every gallon and billing every drop. Beneath every modern city, miles of pressurized pipe push chemically treated water toward your faucet at a cost that will quietly exceed $50,000 over your lifetime. Meanwhile, across rural America, the Amish have run full indoor plumbing for generations in absolute silence. No electricity, no pump, no meter, no bill. Just gravity and a device that costs $8 to build. That device is now being criminalized. And the reason has nothing to do with clean water. A water bill arrives with the same quiet regularity as the sunrise. Each line, the base charge, meter fee, and usage tier, reads like a ledger of permission slips. For most Americans, this is the cost of turning a tap, a median of $70 a month, every month, for as long as you own your home. The bill is not just a tally of gallons, but a reminder of the invisible contract binding you to a single provider. Behind the numbers, a simple reality. You are renting your water, not owning it. The meter itself is a silent accountant, ticking away in a pit outside your door. Every shower, every flush, every drink is measured, priced, and recorded. Miss a payment, and the penalty is not just a late fee. Utilities can place a lien on your property, or in some cities, interrupt service until the debt is cleared. In many neighborhoods, the right to water is written into the deed. Municipal codes require a permanent connection to the public grid, enforced by easements and backed by the threat of fines. Even if a spring bubbles up in your backyard, the law often forbids you from tapping it for your own use if a city pipe runs nearby. This arrangement is not accidental. The structure of American water utilities is designed for continuity and control. Most cities operate as legal monopolies, with exclusive franchise zones. There is no shopping around for a better rate or a different supplier. The public health rationale, safe treated water for all, has been used to justify mandatory hookups and the sealing of private wells. The meter, once a tool for fair billing, now acts as a gatekeeper, ensuring that every drop is accounted for and paid. The monthly bill is not just a reflection of personal consumption, it covers infrastructure maintenance, chemical treatment, administrative overhead, and the cost of debt from past expansions. A typical household will pay more than $50,000 over a lifetime for water that once fell freely from the sky or ran untamed through local streams. The logic is simple. Dependency is profitable. Each bill reinforces the idea that water, the most basic necessity, is a commodity to be bought and sold. For those who have never known another way, this arrangement feels inevitable. But the Amish and other off-grid families live by a different logic. Their systems are built on the quiet certainty that water moves downhill, that pressure comes from gravity, not from a pump or a meter. The contrast is not just technical, but philosophical. One path leads to a lifetime of recurring fees and engineered compliance. The other, to a form of autonomy that most have forgotten is possible. A new house rises on the edge of town. Before the first faucet is installed, the rules are already written. The city issues a certificate of occupancy only after a contract is signed, a binding agreement that ties the property, not just the owner, to the public water grid. The language is precise. Connection to the municipal supply is mandatory, and the one-time hookup fee, often running $2,000 to $3,000, becomes a lien on the land itself. This fee is not a deposit or a down payment. It is a permanent mark attached to the deed, enforceable by law, and in many places it cannot be removed even if the house is later torn down. No negotiation, no opt-out. The municipal code reads like a contract of adhesion. The right to water is not a natural birthright here. It is a service delivered by a single provider at a price set without competition. The franchise zone is exclusive, drawn up by the city council and enforced through zoning and health codes. The homeowner cannot choose a different supplier, cannot drill a new well, cannot rely on a spring or a rain barrel if a city pipe runs within reach. The logic is circular. You must connect because the law says you must, and the law exists to protect the system's integrity. In some cities, the code goes further. If a private well exists, it must be capped, sealed with concrete, inspected, and documented at the owner's expense. The well is destroyed not because it is unsafe, but because it is unmetered, unmonitored, unprofitable. The state's interest is not just in public health, but in preserving the monopoly. Every gallon that bypasses the meter is a threat to the revenue stream. The connection fee is only the beginning. Once the line is in place, monthly charges follow for as long as the property stands. Miss a payment, and the debt is tied to the land, not the person. The water bill is a form of property tax, but one that flows to a utility, not the public treasury. The contract is silent on alternatives. There is no clause for autonomy, no exception for those who wish to live by the laws of gravity and rainfall. Even if a family could supply their own needs with an $8 system that runs on physics alone, the city's ordinance makes that act an offense. The monopoly is not just economic, it is structural, embedded in the legal fabric of the built environment. Water, once the common inheritance of all life, is rendered a product, delivered on terms set by someone else. This is the architecture of dependence. A single pipe, a single bill, a single choice. The freedom to collect, move, or store water on your own terms is written out of the contract. The quiet certainty of water moving downhill is replaced by the engineered certainty of a monthly charge. The system is designed not just to deliver water, but to deliver compliance. In this world, the right to water is not reclaimed by ingenuity or effort, but granted conditionally by authority. Water hammer is the quiet force at the heart of the hydraulic ram pump, an old trick of physics that needs no wires, no batteries, and no fuel. Picture a stream running down a hill. A pipe, the drive pipe, channels that flow toward a closed chamber. At the end sits a simple waste valve, open at first, letting water rush out. But as the flow builds speed, the valve snaps shut. In that instant, the momentum of the moving water has nowhere to go. The sudden stop creates a pressure spike, water hammer, strong enough to force a portion of the water up through a separate delivery valve into an air-filled chamber. The compressed air acts as a cushion, smoothing the jolt and releasing energy in a steady push. This pulse drives water up the delivery pipe, climbing to a cistern or tank far above the original stream, all without a single watt of electricity. The cycle repeats itself again and again. Water enters, valve slams, pressure rises, water lifts. Most of the water, about 70 to 90%, returns to the stream, but the rest, typically 10 to 30%, is sent uphill, ready for use. The only moving parts are the valves. There is no motor to burn out, no circuit to short, just the clean conversion of gravity and momentum into useful work. The entire system is tuned by the length and slope of the drive pipe, the timing of the waste valve, and the size of the air chamber. When set up right, it can run for decades with little more than an occasional check on the seals. This is water independence, delivered by a pulse of pressure and a handful of cheap parts. The logic is as old as falling water itself. No meter, no bill, no permission required. A table is cleared, and the parts are laid out with the kind of order that comes from years of making do. 2 PVC check valves, a length of pipe, a threaded cap, a few hose clamps, and a handful of washers. Nothing special, nothing digital. The receipt totals $8.67, a sum that would barely cover a single month's meter fee. The builder's hands move with certainty, threading the valves together, tightening clamps, checking the seal on the pressure chamber. There is no blueprint, just the memory of water moving downhill and the knowledge that it can be persuaded to climb. A 5-gallon bucket stands ready for the test. The drive pipe is primed and the waste valve left open. Water rushes through, then, on cue, the valve snaps shut. A dull pulse travels up the pipe, and a thin stream leaps into the delivery line. The cycle repeats, ticking like a heartbeat. Each pulse is a quiet refusal of the utility's logic. No wires, no meter, no bill. The bucket fills steadily. 3 gallons in 2 minutes, measured and timed. There is no pump whine, no humming transformer, just the sound of water doing what water has always done. The builder wipes his hands, nods at the simple arithmetic. For less than $9, this system delivers enough water for a day's worth of dishes, a shower, and a load of laundry. The test is not a demonstration for show. It is proof that autonomy can be assembled on a workbench with parts from the local hardware store. The only requirement is a stream, gravity, and the patience to let physics keep its promises. A cistern sits quietly in the loft of an Amish home, its concrete walls dark and cool. Water, lifted by the pulse of the ram pump, arrives in measured surges, each one a small victory of physics over gravity. The tank stands 12 feet above the kitchen floor, and that simple height, 12 feet, translates to 5 pounds of pressure at every tap. It's enough for a steady shower, a full sink, or the rush of water into a pail. No humming motor, no flicker of a meter, just the silent certainty that as long as the stream runs, the cistern will fill. The water itself is different. Before reaching the tank, it passes through a sand and charcoal filter, homemade, packed in a barrel at the edge of the property. Sand catches grit and silt, while charcoal, black as night, pulls out the faint taste of iron and the memory of leaves. There is no chlorine, no chemical aftertaste. The first glass drawn in the morning is cold, almost sweet, with the faint scent of stone and rain. A homesteader stands at the sink, cup in hand, and takes a slow sip. The taste is clean, almost startling in its simplicity. This is water as it was meant to be, unbought, unmetered, unchanged. In winter, the cistern is wrapped in straw, a quiet insulation against the freeze. Pipes run below the frost line, protected by earth and care. The system is a closed loop, powered only by the fall of water and the patience to let gravity do its work. Every part has a reason, every step a purpose. There is no waste, no surplus, only enough. In this world, water is not a product. It is a birthright, delivered by the land and kept safe by the hands that tend it. A single line in a city ordinance can turn a household act into a civil offense. In Colorado, the law once defined the capture of rainwater from a roof as an illegal diversion. The state's prior appropriation doctrine, written to protect downstream users, treated every drop of rain as property of the watershed, not the homeowner. The statute was blunt. No person shall divert water from any natural stream unless authorized by law. For decades, this clause was interpreted to mean that even a barrel collecting runoff from a garden shed could violate state water rights. The logic was not about safety or purity, but about control, ensuring that water falling on private land would eventually flow into the system, measured and accounted for, rather than slipping quietly into a private cistern. Attorneys advising city governments issued memos warning that roof collection, if left unchecked, might undermine the state's water market. In one such document, the language is clinical but unmistakable. The capture and storage of precipitation constitutes a diversion and is subject to regulation. The homeowner who installs a rain barrel without a permit is not a steward, but a violator. The penalty can be a cease and desist order, a daily fine, or in rare cases, a threat of civil court. The law has softened in recent years. Colorado now allows up to 110 gallons of rainwater storage for single-family homes, but the principle remains. The right to collect what falls freely from the sky is granted only in measured, permitted doses. The legal risk is real. A family who builds a system for water independence risks being treated as a threat to the established order. The first barrier is not technical, but legal. The language of diversion embedded in the code draws a bright line between what is allowed and what is forbidden. The act of reclaiming rain becomes an act of quiet defiance. A knock at the door brings a letter from the city. The language is plain, but the meaning is absolute. Connect to the public water main or face penalties. For thousands of homeowners, this is not a matter of choice. Zoning codes and health ordinances spell it out in black and white. If a municipal line runs within reach, you must pay to hook up, no exceptions. The law is enforced by inspectors, backed by the threat of fines or condemnation. The code does not ask whether your well runs clear or your spring is reliable. It asks only if your property lies inside the service zone. The process is as impersonal as a utility pole. A contractor arrives to cap the old well. Steel casing is crushed, the shaft filled with cement, and a city form is signed to certify abandonment. The average bill is $1,200, sometimes more if the well runs deep. This is not a repair, but an erasure, a forced surrender of a private water source, paid for by the owner. The well, once a direct lifeline to the earth, becomes a sealed artifact beneath the lawn. For the regulator, the justification is public health and system integrity. Every unmetered well is seen as a risk, untested, unmonitored, outside the reach of the city's chemical treatment and billing cycle. But to the homeowner, the effect is plain. Autonomy is stripped away, not for lack of water, but for lack of permission. The new pipe brings not just water, but a permanent account number, a monthly bill, and a contract that cannot be refused. The logic is enforced with the weight of law, and the memory of free water fades beneath the poured concrete. A corporation submits a form to the state, pays a nominal fee, and walks away with the right to extract millions of gallons from an aquifer. The permit is stamped, the trucks roll in, and water that once seeped quietly through stone and root is now funneled into endless rows of plastic bottles. Nestle, for years the most visible actor, drew as much as 3 million gallons a day from California's San Bernardino Basin under a permit that costs less than a family's annual water bill. The water is bottled, wrapped in cellophane, and shipped across the continent at a markup that defies belief. In 2023, the bottled water market approached $1 trillion worldwide, a figure so large it erases any illusion that water is too common to be valuable. Meanwhile, a homeowner is fined for collecting rain from their own roof. A well is sealed, a cistern forbidden, a ram pump declared non-compliant. The logic is inverted. Ordinary people are told that water must be metered, treated, and taxed, while the largest players are licensed to privatize the commons. The same groundwater that cannot be drawn by a household bucket is sold back to the public in single-use bottles, each one carrying a price tag hundreds of times higher than the cost at the tap. The records are public, the numbers are not hidden. The disparity is built into the paperwork. One rule for the house, another for the bottling plant. Water, once the shared inheritance of all life, is now a product line, and the ledger is clear about who may profit and who must pay. Today, water flows by ancient logic, gravity, pressure, and rain, while laws and wires try to fence it in. Utility meters turn lifeblood into ledger entries, but the physics never left. As municipal grids tighten their grip, The right to gather and move water remains both threatened and quietly possible. The question now, will we reclaim what the earth gives freely or keep renting every drop? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.